They dragged a new black girl onto the rooftop like she was some easy target, laughing, recording, waving scissors like it was a joke. But the quiet transfer student they tried to humiliate? Yeah. She's a national black belt fighter who's been breaking egos longer than they've been tying their shoes. The moment they sliced her shirt, the entire power dynamic flipped, and those varsity boys had no idea they were seconds away from becoming the school's biggest cautionary tale. This story only gets crazier from here. The rooftop of Brentwood High was never meant to be a place students visited. It sat at the far end of the old science wing, silent, forgotten, and coated in years of dust and neglect. At this hour, when the sun bled orange across the sky and the afternoon wind whipped hard enough to sting the skin, the rooftop felt even more deserted. No teachers, no cameras, no witnesses, just cracked concrete walls streaked with moss and the echo of metal railings vibrating in the wind. Alina Ward hesitated the moment she stepped out onto the rooftop. The air felt wrong. Too cold, too empty, too quiet for a place that was supposed to be just a quick chat. She tightened her grip on the straps of her backpack, trying to ignore the uneasiness squeezing her chest. Behind her, the heavy metal door clanged shut. Chase Miller, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing the orange and white varsity jacket that made him instantly recognizable as Brentwood's star forward, walked past her with an easy grin, as if this were the most normal thing in the world. His two friends, Jordan Clay and Tyler Reed, trailed behind him like shadows, exchanging glances that didn't match the friendliness Chase was selling. "So, about what happened earlier," Chase began, scratching the back of his neck like he was embarrassed. "I didn't mean to bump into you like that. Thought we should clear the air, you know? Didn't want you thinking I'm some kind of jerk." His voice was smooth, too smooth. Alina didn't buy it, not entirely. But she was new here. Second week, and the last thing she wanted was to make enemies with the school's most popular athletes. So she nodded politely, forcing a small, strained smile. "It's fine," she said. "I don't want any trouble." "Good," Chase replied, stepping closer, too close. "Because we don't want trouble either." The way he said "we" made her stomach twist. Jordan snickered behind her. Tyler muttered something under his breath that she couldn't quite hear over the wind. And then, slowly, like someone removing a mask, the friendliness drained from Chase's face. The smile stayed, but the warmth behind it vanished. His eyes hardened. "You know," he said softly, "you're more naive than I thought." A cold shiver ran down Alina's spine. She turned instinctively toward the door behind her. Maybe she could leave. Maybe she could pretend she forgot something. Maybe she could. Her heart dropped. The handle wouldn't move. She tried again, harder. Nothing. It didn't budge. It didn't even rattle. Someone had locked it from the outside. That meant they planned this, down to the last detail. She spun around, pulse rising. Jordan and Tyler were now blocking her only exit. Chase spread his arms wide like a host welcoming a guest into a trap. "What's wrong, Alina?" he asked mockingly. "Door stuck?" Jordan laughed. Tyler raised his phone, already recording. Alina's breath hitched. She stepped backward, flattening herself against the cold concrete wall. Her instincts, deep, buried, and long-kept secret, started screaming. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't an apology. This wasn't an accident. This was a setup. Chase took one step forward, then another, closing the distance between them. The wind whipped his jacket open, revealing a bulge in the pocket, something rigid, something metallic, and then his hand slid inside that pocket. At that moment, Alina knew without a doubt that she was standing in the wrong place, at the wrong time, with the wrong people. They didn't bring her up here to talk, and as Chase's fingers curled around the object hidden in his jacket, Alina's heartbeat thundered in her ears, because whatever he was about to pull out would change everything. The rooftop wind roared louder now, whipping Alina's hair across her face as she backed into the far corner, the one place she hoped she might find some protection. But up here, there were no cameras, no teachers, no witnesses, Just a cold concrete wall pressing against her spine, and 3 boys closing in like hungry wolves. Chase's fingers tightened around the object in his jacket. Alina's breath caught as he finally pulled it out. A pair of scissors. Large. Silver. The kind used in the art room for cutting thick cardboard. The blades gleamed under the fading sunlight, sharp enough to slice fabric in a single, clean line. Chase twirled them between his fingers with a casual arrogance, like he had done this before. "Stand still," he said, voice low and almost playful. "It'll be easier if you don't fight." Alina barely had time to react before he lunged forward, grabbing the front of her shirt with a violent jerk. The collar tightened against her throat, choking her for a split second. She clawed at his wrist, trying to pull free, but he slammed her back against the wall, pinning her there with his weight. "Relax," Jordan snickered. "We're just giving you a little makeover." Tyler let out an ugly laugh and lifted his phone higher. The screen's reflection flickered in his glasses, casting a pale glow over his face as he framed the shot. He zoomed in on Alina's terrified expression, the way someone would frame a trophy on a shelf. "Say cheese," he mocked. The cold metal of the scissors brushed against the fabric near Alina's collarbone. She froze. Her chest heaved as panic squeezed her lungs. She tried to scream, but the wind swallowed her voice, scattering it before it could reach the edge of the roof. Chase yanked harder. Rip! The sound tore through the air, sharper than the scissors themselves. A strip of fabric peeled away from her uniform, fluttering to the ground like a fallen leaf. Chase grinned with sick satisfaction. "That's better," he said. "Now everyone will see what kind of girl you really are." Alina felt her vision blur, fear, rage, humiliation all boiling together. She didn't want to cry. She didn't want to give them anything. But Chase stepped in again, raising the scissors for another cut. Behind him, Jordan clapped mockingly. "Cut the sleeves next, bro." "Bet little Miss New Girl won't complain." But Tyler wasn't laughing now. His eyes were glued to his phone, and the smirk on his face stretched wider and wider. Chase noticed. "What's so funny?" Tyler held up the screen proudly. "We got viewers." Alina's stomach dropped. Tyler wasn't just recording, he had opened a private live stream meant only for members of the Brentwood varsity team. A dozen usernames popped up. Hearts and laughing emojis floating across the screen. Comments rolled in. "Yo, what are y'all doing up there? No way, this is hilarious. Cut more. Get a better angle." Alina's blood ran cold. This wasn't random cruelty. This was entertainment. Content. Something they planned to share, mock, replay. Chase leaned closer, whispering into her ear. Now the whole team gets to enjoy the show. She felt her pulse explode in her neck. The humiliation burned hotter than the fear. Her fists clenched at her sides, nails digging into her palms. She wanted to scream, to run, to fight anything, but Chase still had her pinned. Jordan moved beside Tyler, laughing as he threw an arm around his shoulder. "Make sure you save it, dude. Coach is gonna die laughing." No, he won't, Alina thought. Coach wouldn't laugh, not if he knew who she really was. But they didn't know. Not yet. A gust of wind hit the rooftop, scattering dust along the concrete and blowing Chase's jacket open. For a split second, Alina's eyes darted past his shoulder toward the rusty metal door of the emergency exit. A tiny light blinked. On. Off. On. Off. A red indicator. Very faint. Very old. But unmistakably alive. These boys didn't just want to humiliate her. They wanted to broadcast it. And as that small, blinking light reflected in Alina's widening eyes, something shifted inside her, because that wasn't just any light. It was a warning, a witness, a chance. The emergency exit door at the far end of the rooftop groaned quietly under the weight of the wind. Its rusted hinges trembled, and above it, fixed into the cracked cement wall, hung an old, dust-coated security camera. Everyone at Brentwood High believed it had been dead for years, a relic from a forgotten renovation project. Its lens was dull, scratched, and slightly tilted downward, as if it had long given up watching anything at all. But Alina saw something the boys didn't, a tiny red light, blinking, slow, steady, alive. Her breath hitched, then steadied. Chase didn't notice. He was too focused on his own cruelty. "Hold still!" he snarled, jerking her forward again. His grip tightened around the fabric near her waist, and with a swift, vicious swipe, the scissors tore through another section of her shirt. Threads snapped under the blade, fluttering in the wind like pale confetti. Jordan whooped behind him, raising his fists like he was cheering for a touchdown. "Yeah, that's it, man. Show her what happens when someone disrespects the team." Tyler stayed glued to his phone, angling the camera like he was filming a highlight reel. The screen glowed against his face. Viewers continued pouring in. Heart emojis, laughing faces, taunts, a digital crowd cheering for blood. Alina's back thudded against the cold concrete wall. Her chest heaved in panic, but her eyes never left that blinking red light. Each pulse steadied her heartbeat a little more. Each flicker reminded her of something she had trained for since she was 7 years old. Focus under pressure. She inhaled, slowly, deep, controlled, then again and again. Her vision sharpened. Her limbs loosened. Her fear faded into something colder, clearer. Jordan noticed the shift first. "Is she smiling?" he asked, hesitating. Alina wasn't smiling, not fully, but her trembling had stopped. Her shoulders lowered. Her breathing evened out. A strange steadiness rolled off her like someone stepping into their true skin. Chase frowned. "What's wrong with you? Scared speechless?" He lifted the scissors again, aiming for another cut. This time, Alina didn't flinch. "Don't move," he growled. But she didn't move because she wasn't afraid. She was calculating. Tyler zoomed in closer. "Yo, this is gold. The whole chat is going insane." A gust of wind cut him off, sweeping dust across the rooftop and making the emergency exit door rattle violently. The noise drew Jordan's attention for half a heartbeat, the same heartbeat Alina used to shift her stance ever so slightly, grounding her weight. She kept her eyes half-lidded, pretending to still be in shock, but inside, her mind clicked into place like a well-trained engine. What none of the boys knew, what even Alina didn't know until this moment, was that the broken camera had been reactivated that very morning by Vice Principal Grant during a routine system inspection. The blinking light wasn't a glitch, it was recording. Every second, every scream, every slice of fabric, every face. The boys thought they were invisible. They thought they had chosen the perfect crime scene. They thought the rooftop was dead. It wasn't. Alina felt a surge of adrenaline not from fear, but from awareness. If the camera was on, someone might be watching. And if someone was watching, she didn't have to escape. She just had to survive long enough for help to reach her. Jordan stepped closer, brushing aside the strands of hair that had fallen over her face. His fingers dug into her scalp, cruel and confident. "Hey," he sneered. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." He grabbed a fistful of her hair and yanked. That was his mistake. They thought they chose the perfect place to hide their crimes. But the rooftop wasn't as blind as they believed. And the moment Jordan's hand tangled in her hair, ripping her head backward, Alina felt the final barrier snap because the time to fight had finally arrived. Jordan's fingers twisted deeper into Alina's hair, yanking her head backward so hard her vision blurred. Pain shot across her scalp, but her breathing stayed steady, slow, controlled, practiced. For a moment, Jordan mistook her stillness for weakness, for surrender. It wasn't. It was calculation. The wide, empty rooftop stretched beneath her feet, the concrete rough and cold through her shoes. The wind cut across the open space in sharp currents, but all Alina felt was the warm pulse of Jordan's wrist gripping her hair. She centered herself, dropped her weight, and let instinct, old, disciplined instinct, take control. Jordan tugged harder. Alina moved. She pivoted sharply to her left, slipping under his arm. In a single smooth motion, she seized his wrist with one hand, clamped her other palm against his elbow, and twisted. A perfect judo kotegaeshi. Jordan's scream tore through the air a heartbeat before his body slammed onto the concrete. Thud. The impact echoed across the rooftop. Jordan's phone skittered several feet away, clattering near the drainpipe. His breath punched out of him as he wrangled against the hold, but Alina tightened her grip just enough to send a jolt of pain through his arm, controlled, precise, intentional. She didn't break him. She didn't need to. She only needed him down. What the? Chase froze mid-step, eyes widening as the reality of what just happened finally registered. Tyler's phone nearly slipped from his hands as he tried and failed to steady the shot. Jordan Clay, 6 feet tall, 180 pounds, varsity-level athlete, had been thrown onto the ground like a rag doll by a girl half his size. Not shoved, not tripped. Thrown. Jordan writhed on the floor, clutching his wrist, groaning through clenched teeth. His eyes darted between Alina and his friends, disbelief flooding his face. She broke my arm. She broke my freaking arm. Alina hadn't. His bones were intact. But the pain was real enough to make him believe otherwise. Tyler took a step backward, swallowing hard. Dude, what is she? Alina rose slowly, her breathing calm, her posture poised, hair still disheveled from the pull but her gaze razor-sharp. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her silence alone cut deeper than anything the boys had planned to do to her. Chase's shock turned quickly, violently into anger. You think that was impressive? He snapped, taking a menacing step forward. You think throwing Jordan makes you tough? Alina didn't move. You're dead, Chase growled. He reached down, snatching the scissors off the ground where they'd fallen during the struggle. His grip tightened around the handle until his knuckles whitened. Tyler looked between the two of them, fear creeping into his voice. Chase, man, just stop. Just chill. This isn't what we planned. But Chase wasn't listening. His pride was wounded. His ego was bleeding. And nothing was more dangerous than a humiliated bully with something sharp in his hand. He lunged. Not cautiously. Not strategically. Like a wild animal. You're done! He swung the scissors downward in a messy, furious arc. Alina sidestepped, her feet moving with the precision of someone who had drilled the same motion 1,000 times. The blade sliced through empty air where her shoulder had been a fraction of a second ago. Chase stumbled, startled by her speed. Hold still, he shouted, swinging again faster, more desperate. But Alina's body flowed like water, slipping past every strike with impossible agility. Tyler whispered under his breath, terror creeping into him. She's trained. He was right. Chase didn't know, none of them did, that Alina Ward wasn't just a strong girl. She wasn't just lucky. She had spent 10 years under one of the toughest martial arts programs in the country. She was a 2-time national gold medalist in karate, undefeated in her age division. And Chase Miller had just charged straight into a fight he could never win. They didn't just target the wrong girl. They awakened the wrong fighter. With the scissors clutched in his fist and rage blinding his judgment, Chase hurled himself at her again, this time with every intention to hurt her. And Alina prepared to reveal yet another layer of the strength they never saw coming. The rooftop railing loomed behind Alina, cold metal, flaking paint, and a 20-foot drop to the hard courtyard below. The wind howled in long, hollow gusts, rattling the loose pipes and making the railing vibrate like a warning bell. Chase didn't hear any of it. Rage drowned out everything: logic, fear, common sense. His breath came out in wild bursts as he charged, the large scissors glinting dangerously in his fist. "You're dead!" he roared. He swung, fast, hard, reckless. The blade cut through the air with a sharp metallic hiss. Alina tilted her head just inches away from the strike, feeling the cold rush of air as the scissors sliced past her cheek. Chase's momentum carried him forward. Alina moved with precision. She stepped to the side, pivoting on the ball of her foot. In one fluid motion, she swept her leg low across the concrete. A textbook leg sweep, delivered with perfect timing. Chase's balance vanished. Hoo-ah! His feet flew out from under him. His arms windmilled wildly as he lurched backward toward the rooftop railing. His back slammed into the metal bar, making it shake violently. For a split second, everyone stopped breathing. Even the wind paused. Chase teetered on the edge, 1 foot off the ground, torso hanging over the drop. His eyes widened as he looked down at the courtyard far below. The scissors clattered from his hand, bouncing across the rooftop. "Chase!" Tyler screamed. That single shout broke the stillness. Chase flailed, grabbing desperately at the railing. His fingers hooked the top bar just in time. His legs kicked, scrambling to regain footing. Alina stepped back, heart pounding but movement steady. She hadn't pushed him. She hadn't harmed him. She had simply defended herself. But to someone watching the scene without context, it looked like Chase Miller nearly died. And that's exactly what the live stream showed. Because at the same moment Chase slipped, Tyler's grip on his phone faltered. His sweaty hands shook so hard the device flew out of his grasp, bouncing across the concrete toward the railing. No, 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 no. Tyler dove for it too late. The phone hit the railing, flipped twice in the air, and plummeted off the rooftop, down, down, down. But it didn't crash into pieces. The phone landed on the soft awning below the science wing screen, still lit, still recording, still streaming, and the live stream kept going. The chat exploded. He almost fell. "This agents, they're ardent. Bro, WTF is this? Stop it, stop it, stop it. Is he trying to kill her now? Someone call a teacher." The camera angle was shaky, crooked, but clear enough to show Chase's near-death slip. Viewers watched him dangle off the railing, clutching the metal bar with white knuckles, while Alina stood several feet away, not attacking, not touching him, just staring. Tyler let out a strangled gasp, his face turning ghost pale. "Oh my God," he whispered. "Oh my God, they're seeing everything." Chase finally dragged himself upright, panting, fury twisting his features. "You tried to kill me!" He spat at Alina. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The livestream chat already knew the truth. Behind Chase, the phone continued to sit on the awning, pointed upward like a silent witness. Dozens of viewers. Screenshots piling up, evidence he could never erase. Tyler's voice cracked. "We have to stop the stream, someone grab it, someone stop it." But the phone wasn't reachable from the rooftop. Not without climbing over the railing, something none of them dared attempt after watching Chase nearly fall. Jordan, still clutching his sore wrist, stared at Alina like she had transformed into something else entirely. Something dangerous, something untouchable. And for the first time, the fear wasn't hers. It was theirs. They thought they controlled the story. But now the story was devouring them alive. And the panic only deepened when Tyler realized something far worse. Not only was the video still streaming, he couldn't delete it, even if he wanted to. The rooftop felt smaller, now tighter, more suffocating, as panic exploded through the three boys like a chain reaction. The wind whipped harder around them, scattering dust and loose gravel, making every movement urgent, frantic, uncoordinated. Tyler was the first to snap. "We have to delete it," he shouted, voice cracking. "We have to get the phone!" His eyes darted wildly toward the edge of the rooftop where his phone had fallen. Down below, resting on the flimsy awning of the science wing, the screen still glowed, still pointing upward, still live-streaming the entire disaster in real time. Chase was too busy trying to steady himself after nearly falling to his death. Jordan was gingerly rubbing his wrist, face twisted in pain. That left Tyler shaking, desperate, frantic. He sprinted toward the railing. "Tyler, don't!" Jordan barked. But fear had chewed through Tyler's common sense. All he saw was the live stream, his actions, his voice, his face broadcast to whoever was still watching. And judging by the non-stop stream of comments, the number was growing by the second. He grabbed the railing and leaned dangerously over the edge, reaching for the awning below. Come on," he muttered. "Just a little closer, just—" Alina moved before he could react. Her foot whipped upward in a sharp, controlled kick, a perfect front snap kick. Her heel struck his forearm with a force that made him yelp. His hand recoiled. His balance vanished. He staggered backward, slamming into the concrete with a thud. The air left his lungs in a broken gasp. But her kick hadn't been aimed at him alone. It had been aimed at the phone. The sudden impact jarred the awning below, The flimsy fabric tilted. The phone slid forward, then tumbled over the side. Tyler, eyes wide with terror, screamed, "No!" He scrambled to his feet, nearly slipping again, staring helplessly as the phone dropped 2 more levels, before finally clattering onto the walkway below. Cracked, scratched, still glowing. Still. Live streaming. "Oh my God," Tyler whispered, knees buckling. "It's still on. It's still on." Jordan stumbled beside him, clutching his aching wrist. "Dude, this is bad. This is really bad." Chase slammed his fist against the railing, face red with fury and humiliation. "Turn it off. Someone turn it off." "We can't," Tyler shouted back. His voice hit a pitch that bordered on hysterical. "It's still streaming. Even if it's cracked. It's still there are screenshots, screens. He couldn't finish the sentence, because the comments revealed the truth. Hundreds of students had already taken screenshots of the stream. Dozens were forwarding them to other group chats. The scandal was exploding like wildfire across Brentwood High. "Oh my God, is that Chase? Call the principal now. This is going on the school forum. I'm saving this video, lol. Someone screen record the whole thing. They're dead. They're actually dead." Every passing second turned the situation from a private act of cruelty into a full-blown public disaster. The 3 boys finally understood. They were no longer the hunters. They were the prey. Chase backed away from the railing, breathing hard. He stared at Alina with a mixture of hatred and fear, as if she had somehow orchestrated this, as if she had trapped them instead of the other way around. "You!" he growled. "You ruined everything." Alina didn't speak. She didn't gloat. She just stood with her feet planted firmly, eyes steady, posture calm. Because, for the first time since she'd walked onto the rooftop, the danger wasn't hers anymore. It was theirs. Tyler grabbed Jordan's arm. "We need to get out of here. We need to go. We need to—" He stopped mid-sentence. Everyone froze. A sound cut through the chaos, a heavy, metallic clunk. Then another. Clunk, clunk, clunk. The sound echoed from behind them, from the old emergency exit door. Jordan's eyes widened. Who's coming up here?" Chase swallowed hard. Alina turned her head slowly toward the door, toward the footsteps climbing the metal stairs, toward the inevitable moment when everything they had done would be seen by someone who wasn't watching through a phone. The scandal was spreading faster than any of them could control, and it was about to reach the one place they feared most, the adults. And as the final heavy footstep landed on the other side of the exit door, the boys' faces drained of color because whoever was out there had already seen enough to change everything. On the far side of the rooftop, the old emergency exit door rattled again, louder this time, more deliberate. The sound echoed up the metal staircase beneath it, growing closer with every step. The boys stiffened, breath scraping in and out of their chests as panic tightened its grip. And then another sound joined it. Blink, blink, blink. The tiny red light on the forgotten security camera continued its steady pulse, glowing brighter now in the dimming afternoon light. It wasn't just recording, it was transmitting, sending everything it captured straight down to the school's main surveillance hub. In that cramped, fluorescent-lit room beneath the administration office, Vice Principal Samuel Grant stared at the monitor in disbelief. A minute earlier, when he ran a routine system refresh on the outdated rooftop cameras, he had expected nothing but static. They hadn't worked in years, or so everyone believed. But suddenly, the old feed flickered alive. Snowy at first, then sharp. And what he saw made his stomach drop. 3 varsity boys, a girl cornered against the wall, fabric torn, a pair of scissors glinting. Chaos, fear, violence. Grant didn't hesitate. He shoved the chair backward, grabbed the set of master keys, and bolted from the room. Age had slowed him somewhat, but adrenaline sharpened every step. He moved with a precision he hadn't used since his years as a youth counselor before he ever stepped into school administration. Up the hallway, past the lockers, through the science wing, toward the staircase he prayed he would not be too late to climb. On the rooftop, meanwhile, Chase, Tyler, and Jordan exchanged frantic looks as the staircase groaned under the weight of someone ascending fast. Who? Who is that? Jordan whispered. Tyler's voice wavered. We're screwed. We're so screwed. Chase clenched his fists, desperation replacing his earlier rage. He darted toward the door, shouting, "Don't say a word! None of you say anything!" But his words were drowned out by the final heavy thud of a boot reaching the landing. The doorknob rattled. Chase and Tyler jerked backward like they'd touched a live wire. Jordan stumbled behind them. All three stared at the metal door as if sheer fear could weld it shut again. Alina didn't move. She stood steady near the center of the rooftop, fists still subtly raised in guarded form, her breathing calm, her stance balanced, her eyes focused. Grant pushed the door open with a force that sent it banging against the concrete wall. The boys flinched. The moment Grant stepped onto the rooftop, his eyes locked onto the scene in front of him, three disheveled, panicked athletes, a girl with a torn shirt, and scissors lying on the roof like discarded evidence. His face hardened instantly. "What?" he said, voice low and cutting. "Is going on here?" No one answered. For a full second, everyone stood frozen. Then Grant's gaze shifted to Alina, the way she held herself, the grounded stance, the precise angle of her feet, the faint redness on her knuckles, the subtle readiness in her posture. It all painted a picture he recognized. Alina Ward wasn't just defending herself instinctively. She had training, real training, the kind that didn't come from a PE class but from years of disciplined practice. Grant had worked with enough youth martial artists in his community outreach years to recognize the signs immediately. The girl standing before him was not a passive victim. She was someone who knew exactly how to counter, subdue, and control an aggressor. Which meant the boys didn't just pick the wrong girl, they picked the worst possible girl to target. Grant's jaw tightened. He understood now this wasn't a prank gone wrong. This was a crisis, a violent incident, a school liability of massive proportions. And if he didn't intervene correctly, it would explode into something the entire district would feel. He took a step forward, voice firm. "Alina, are you hurt?" She shook her head, though her shirt was torn nearly to the shoulder. Grant turned to the boys. "We're going downstairs. All of you. Now." Chase opened his mouth to argue, but Grant raised a finger, silencing him instantly. "This is not up for debate." Vice Principal Grant had seen enough to know this was bigger than a simple fight, and he was about to uncover just how deep the trouble went. As Grant motioned them toward the exit, another sound buzzed from his walkie-talkie, confirmation that the security feed had been fully recorded. The boys paled even further. The adults weren't just arriving, they already had evidence. Vice Principal Grant stepped fully onto the rooftop, the heavy door groaning behind him before clicking shut. The wind pressed at his blazer, tugging at the edges as he scanned the scene. The broken symmetry of it, the trembling bodies, the ripped clothing, the discarded weapon lying on the concrete. In one glance, he absorbed everything. Jordan Clay lay half-curled near the center of the roof, clutching his wrist and biting back groans. His face was pale, sweaty, his breath shallow. Chase Miller stood stiffly, jaw clenched, eyes darting everywhere except at Grant. Tyler Reed lingered closest to the railing, shaking so hard his phone notifications buzzed continuously in his pocket. Ignored. And standing apart, silent, steady, collected, was Alina Ward. Her torn shirt exposed the violence done to her, but her expression, her posture, the calmness in her eyes was unsettling in its strength. Not a victim broken, a survivor calculating. Grant's gaze lingered on her a beat longer than the others. Something about the way she held herself, feet planted, shoulders squared, breathing controlled, told him what the camera had already hinted. This girl fought back, and she fought well. Chase finally stepped forward, desperation leaking into his voice. She attacked us," he blurted out. "We were just trying to talk to her, and she went crazy and threw Jordan. She almost killed me. She tried to shove me off the roof." Jordan groaned loudly, adding fuel to his friend's lie. "Yeah, look at my arm. She grabbed me out of nowhere," Tyler nodded frantically. "She kicked my phone. She did everything." Grant didn't blink. He simply stared at Chase long enough for Chase's confident stance to wilt, long enough for Tyler's babbled words to choke off, long enough for Jordan to realize his moans were doing nothing to sway the adult standing before them. Then Grant lifted a hand, palm open, stopping their excuses midair. "Boys," he said quietly, "I watched everything." Silence slammed onto the rooftop. "Everything?" Tyler whispered, his voice cracking. Grant nodded slowly. "Your live stream wasn't the only recording. The rooftop camera has been reactivated. I saw you corner her. I saw the scissors. I saw where each of you stood and what each of you did." Jordan's eyes stretched wide. "The camera was working? Since when?" "Since this morning," Grant replied sharply. "And it caught enough to make the school district sick." Chase staggered backward, color draining from his face. His bravado evaporated as the realization struck him. The narrative he was trying to spin had already collapsed. Their lies were dust before they even hit the air. Grant stepped toward the emergency exit door, lifting his walkie-talkie. "Security. This is Vice Principal Grant," he said, in a tone that allowed no misunderstanding. "I need 2 guards up on the rooftop immediately, and I want the recordings from camera R7 pulled and sealed. No one touches that footage except me and the superintendent." A long pause, then a crackled reply. "Copy that, sir. Securing footage now." The evidence wasn't just recorded. It was being locked away, preserved, protected, a complete record of everything the 3 boys had done and everything Alina had not. For the first time, Chase, Jordan, and Tyler weren't in control. Their social power, their athletic status, their reputations, none of it mattered now. The rules had changed. The ground had shifted, and they were standing on the losing side. Tyler stumbled backward, hands shaking. "We just made a mistake. We didn't mean for it to." Grant shut him down with a single glare. "This wasn't a mistake," he said sharply. "This was premeditated harassment, assault, and endangerment. And you filmed it." Chase opened and closed his mouth like he wanted to argue, but no words came. For once, the boy who always had an excuse, always had a defense, had nothing. Grant turned to Alina, his voice softening. "We're going to take care of this. You're safe now." Alina nodded, but her eyes remained steady, clear, aware. She knew this wasn't over. For the first time, the power had shifted, and the boys who ruled the school were finally, irrevocably cornered. But the greatest shock was still on its way, because the one person who mattered most had not yet arrived. The fluorescent lights hummed softly inside the administrative office as Vice Principal Grant shut the door behind him. The rooftop chaos was still echoing in his mind, the scissors, the torn shirt, the terror, the live stream, the lies shattered by the camera's cold honesty. But now came the part he dreaded even more. Calling the parents. Alina sat quietly on the chair outside the office, her posture straight, her expression unreadable. Her shirt was torn, dirt smudged across her shoulder, but her breathing remained steady, far steadier than any student who had just fought for her life should be. The school secretary, Miss Harris, kept glancing nervously at her from behind the front desk. Grant approached the computer, fingers stiff as he clicked open the student database. He typed in the last name, Ward, Alina, her profile, popped up photo, emergency contacts, medical notes. He scanned the left side of the screen until he reached the parent-guardian information section. Then he froze. Parent, guardian, Daniel Ward. Occupation, National Karate Team Coach. Former, 6th Dan Black Belt, U.S. Karate Federation. Status, active trainer at Olympic Prep Center. Grant inhaled sharply, straightening his glasses. He read the lines a second time just to make sure exhaustion wasn't playing tricks on him. Miss Harris noticed the shift in his expression. "Everything okay?" she asked cautiously. Grant didn't answer right away. Instead, he clicked another tab, Administrative Notes. There was only one entry. If my daughter is ever harmed, bullied, or put in danger at school, call me immediately. I will come in person." Daniel Ward Grant swallowed hard. This wasn't a typical guardian note. It wasn't a polite suggestion. It was a warning. A very clear warning. And after watching the rooftop footage, Grant understood exactly why. He turned to look through the small glass window into the hallway. Alina sat perfectly still, hands resting on her knees, eyes lowered, but alert, her posture unmistakable. She had been trained, not casually, not at a local dojo for fun, but trained by him. Grant rubbed his forehead. The situation had already been a ticking bomb. Now it was a bomb with a national champion holding the detonator. Miss Harris approached tentatively. Should I call Mr. Ward for you, sir?" Grant hesitated, weighing the risks. On one hand, he was required to notify the parent. It was school policy. It was protocol. It was the law. On the other hand, Daniel Ward was not an ordinary father. He was a legend in martial arts circles, a man who had built champions, broken records, and was known for a strict, unshakable moral code. And if he heard what had happened to his daughter, Grant exhaled slowly. There was no choice. He had to make the call. "Put it on, speaker," he said. Miss Harris dialed the number. 1 ring. 2. 3. Grant's heart thudded in his chest. Finally, a click. A deep, steady voice answered. Daniel Ward speaking. Even through the speaker, the tone carried a quiet authority. Not angry. Not emotional. Controlled. Dangerously controlled. Grant cleared his throat, suddenly feeling like a student being scolded rather than an administrator in charge. "Mr. Ward, this is Vice Principal Grant from Brentwood High. There's been an incident involving your daughter, and we—" Silence. Then a single chilling sentence. "Is Alina hurt?" Grant felt a tremor crawl up his spine. He glanced at the torn shirt, the bruising on Alina's arm, the shaken way she had walked off the roof. "She's safe now," he replied carefully. "But the situation is serious." Another pause, longer this time. Then Daniel spoke again, soft, deliberate. "Tell me everything." Grant swallowed. "Sir, before we discuss details, I want to assure you we are taking immediate disciplinary action. We've secured video evidence," and Daniel cut him off. "You called me because it was serious. So I'm coming. Right now." Grant felt his stomach drop. "Mr. Ward, if I may—" "Don't hang up," Daniel said calmly. "I'm already on my way." The line disconnected. Grant lowered the phone, staring at the silent device, with the kind of dread only educators knew, the dread of facing a parent whose child had been failed. Miss Harris whispered, "Is he angry?" Grant shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "He's calm." He swallowed hard. "That's worse." Grant knew instantly this was no longer a schoolyard incident. This was about to become a reckoning, and as he stepped out of the office to tell Alina her father was coming, he couldn't shake the cold feelings settling in his chest, because Daniel Ward wasn't the only one on his way. The principal's office had never felt so small. Chairs scraped, papers rustled, tension thickened the air like smoke. The emergency meeting had been called within minutes, and now the room was packed. Chase, Jordan, and Tyler sat hunched in their seats, pale and shaking. Their parents stood behind them, whispering frantic excuses under their breath. Principal Owens sat stiffly at the head of the table, while Vice Principal Grant lingered near the door, arms folded tightly. Alina sat on one side of the room, silent, composed, her torn shirt the only visible reminder of what had happened. Then the door opened. Daniel Ward walked in. Not quickly, not angrily, just purposefully, but the weight of him, his presence, his stillness, his control hit the room with the force of a punch. Every parent stepped back. Chase's mother gasped quietly. Even Principal Owens straightened reflexively, as though greeting a high-ranking official. Daniel didn't look at anyone except his daughter, Alina. His voice softened for one moment, only one. "Are you all right?" She nodded once. "Yes, Dad." Relief flickered in his eyes, but only for a heartbeat. Then he turned toward the table, jaw tightening. Principal Owens cleared her throat nervously. "Mr. Ward, thank you for coming so quickly. We're reviewing the incident to understand—" "No need." Daniel's gaze didn't waver. "You have the video." Silence. Grant stepped forward and pressed a button on the laptop. The rooftop footage filled the large screen. Every second played, every angle, every scream. The scissors, the torn shirt, the live stream panic. Chase nearly falling off the roof. The entire room watched in horrified quiet. When the video ended, Chase instantly leaned forward, desperation spilling out. She attacked us first! She grabbed Jordan! She kicked Tyler's phone, she. Daniel raised a hand. Just one. The room fell still. He looked directly at Chase. "That," he said quietly, pointing at the frozen frame of the scissors raised near his daughter's chest, "is my daughter." He stepped closer to the screen. "And that," he tapped the paused image of the blade, "was inches from her throat." Chase swallowed hard. Daniel's voice sharpened, each word cold, controlled, razor precise. "You attacked her. You tore her clothes. You cornered her. You live-streamed it." He leaned forward slightly. "And you're sitting here trying to blame her?" The room held its breath. Then Daniel asked the question that shattered the last of Chase's defiance. "You were going to cut into her shirt. What exactly were you planning to do if she hadn't fought back?" Chase's mouth opened, no words came out. Daniel's tone dropped to a lethal whisper. "You intended to put a blade near my daughter's neck. Tell me, were you going to stop before you reached skin?" No one answered. Everyone knew the truth. Principal Owens straightened, voice firm for the first time since the meeting began. "Effective immediately," she announced. "Chase Miller, Jordan Clay, and Tyler Reed are suspended pending a full disciplinary review. Given the evidence, we are also initiating an external investigation. If parents are unwilling to cooperate, we will pursue this as a criminal matter." The room erupted. Parents shouted. Chase stammered. Jordan began crying. Tyler shook uncontrollably. But the decision was final. The rooftop fight was over. But the real battle had moved into the boardroom, and while the adults argued behind closed doors, something far more explosive was happening outside. The video had reached the students. By the next morning, Brentwood High was unrecognizable. The hallways buzzed with a chaotic energy, hushed whispers, gasps. Clusters of students huddled around glowing screens. Every corner of the school pulsed with the same electrified shock, the same disbelief, the same rising fury. The rooftop video had spread like wildfire. Not quietly, not slowly, but violently ripping through every group chat, every private story, every class forum with the force of a bomb. "Have you seen this? Oh my God, that's Chase. He almost cut her. Look at the scissors. Dude, they live-streamed it. Live-streamed it." Screens everywhere replayed the same horrifying moments. Chase raising the scissors, Jordan yanking Alina's hair, Tyler's frantic attempt to grab the falling phone. Zoomed-in screenshots circled the boys' faces in bright red, reposted hundreds of times with captions like, "Monsters in varsity jackets," "Cancel the whole team," "Protect Alina." The school's golden boys, the undefeated basketball heroes, the ones who strutted through halls like they owned them, were now the most hated figures on campus. And Alina? She walked in surrounded by silence at first. Not fear, not pity, respect. Students parted as she moved through the hallway, watching her with wide eyes. Some murmured apologies for not stepping in before. Others simply stared awed by her composure, ashamed of what their school had become. By lunch period, the fury had escalated. In the cafeteria, someone stood up on a bench and shouted, "Play the video again." Phones shot up. The screen lit with the frame of Chase cornering Alina. A wave of disgust rippled through the room. "He should be expelled." Iver quoted, "He could have killed her. They all should be." And then unexpectedly another voice rose from the crowd. "I know how she felt." All heads turned. A sophomore girl stepped forward, hugging her binder to her chest. She looked terrified but determined. "Last year, Chase cornered me behind the gym. He didn't hurt me, but he threatened to if I told anyone. A hush fell. Another voice spoke up. I had trouble with Jordan too, a junior boy admitted, eyes down. He shoved me in the locker rooms for a bet, then another. And another. One by one, students across the cafeteria shared their stories, small ones, big ones, cruel ones, all pointing to the same truth. This wasn't the first time. Only the first time they got caught. Word spread faster than the rumors themselves. Brentwood's beloved team had a history, a pattern of intimidation and violence, swept under the shiny reputation of school glory. Outside on the courtyard benches, more students gathered, forming circles, sharing screenshots, posting TikToks about the Rooftop scandal, stitching the live stream footage with commentary. The school's online presence exploded. Suddenly, the varsity jackets no longer symbolized pride. They symbolized fear, abuse, corruption. And the players still on the team, those uninvolved, walked with their heads bowed, ashamed of the crest they once wore proudly. Alina saw all of it. She didn't revel in the chaos. She didn't smile at their downfall. She simply observed, quiet, steady, watchful. Because deep down, she knew this wasn't just about her. This was every kid who had been too afraid to speak, every student who had swallowed their pain, every person who had watched the team abuse their power and felt powerless. But that era ended the moment her father stepped into the school. In one day, the mighty reputation of Brentwood's star athletes, the untouchable idols of the school, collapsed into dust. And the fallout was only beginning. Because when parents across the district saw the video, they demanded answers and justice. The Brentwood High parent meeting was supposed to be routine updates on fundraising, scheduling, and new safety protocols. Instead, the moment the doors opened, it erupted into a storm. Dozens of parents crowded inside the auditorium-like meeting room, all speaking at once. Some clutched printed screenshots from the Rooftop livestream. Others held their phones up with the video paused at the exact moment Chase raised the scissors. The room buzzed with tension, fear, outrage, and disbelief woven into every whispered conversation. Vice Principal Grant and Principal Owens stood at the front table, looking like they were bracing for impact. They knew they were about to be blamed for everything from lax policies to failed supervision. A mother shot to her feet first. How did a student bring scissors onto the roof? She demanded. Where were the teachers? Where were the monitors? How was any of this allowed to happen? Another parent chimed in, voice trembling with anger. And the live stream, how did no one stop it? My daughter saw it before breakfast. This is unacceptable. Soon, the room was a chorus of accusations. You failed to protect those kids. Our sons and daughters deserve better. Those boys could have killed her. This is negligence. Principal Owens raised her hands, trying to calm them. We understand your concerns, and we are— No, a father interrupted sharply. You don't understand. This wasn't just bullying. This was assault. This was premeditated harassment captured on video. And if we hadn't seen it, would you even be taking it seriously? A murmur of agreement swept through the crowd. Grant exhaled, feeling the pressure build. He looked toward the back of the room at the one person who had not spoken yet but whose presence shifted the room like gravity, Daniel Ward. He sat alone, arms crossed, posture straight, expression unreadable. The parents recognized him from local news segments and martial arts features. Famous, disciplined, intimidating, without raising his voice. Principal Owens finally addressed him. Mr. Ward, would you like to say anything? Daniel stood slowly, and the room fell silent instantly, as if every person sensed instinctively that the most important voice in the room had just risen. When I received the call, Daniel began calmly, I didn't come here to sue anyone. I didn't come here to destroy the school's reputation. I came here for one reason. His eyes swept the room sharp, steady, unwavering. To make sure nothing like this ever happens again. A few parents nodded. Others looked at him anxiously. Daniel continued, voice firm but controlled. My daughter defended herself because she had no choice. She shouldn't have been put in that position. None of your children should ever be." He turned toward the administration table. "I will cooperate fully with the school. I am not pursuing legal action at this time." A collective sigh of relief rippled through the administrators. But Daniel wasn't finished. "However," he added, "I expect the school to apply the highest level of discipline. These boys brought a weapon to school grounds, trapped my daughter on a rooftop, and broadcasted it for entertainment." His voice deepened, each word carrying the weight of a verdict. "If you do not handle this decisively, I will." A hush swept the room. No screaming, no accusations, just heavy, heavy silence. Even the parents of the 3 boys didn't dare speak, because Daniel's threat wasn't shouted. It was whispered in steel. What began as a single rooftop attack had spiraled into a full-blown crisis, one now driven by outraged parents, public scrutiny, and the firm promise of a father who would not let the matter rest. And, as the meeting adjourned, the school's leadership retreated behind closed doors, ready, at last, to deliver the final ruling that would change everything. The disciplinary board convened in the conference chamber, an austere, wood-paneled room rarely used, except for the most serious infractions. This time, every chair was filled. Every expression was grave. At the long table sat the members of the board, the principal, vice principal, district representative, school counselor, and legal advisor. They looked weary, as though the weight of the entire school's outrage rested squarely on their shoulders. Facing them sat Elina Ward. Beside her, silent and immovable, sat her father, Daniel Ward. Across from them, the 3 boys, Chase Miller, Jordan Clay, Tyler Reed, slumped in their chairs, flanked by tense, pale parents who could no longer shield them from consequences that had grown far beyond a schoolyard dispute. The room buzzed with the low hum of tension. The decision had already been made, but the board followed procedure. Each student gave a statement. Each parent offered an explanation or apology. None of it changed the outcome. Finally, Principal Owens rose. Her voice was steady, far steadier than it had been in days. After reviewing video evidence, witness reports, security logs, and the live stream recording, she began, "The board has reached a unanimous decision." Chase swallowed hard. Tyler's leg bounced uncontrollably. Jordan avoided eye contact with anyone. Principal Owens continued, "Chase Miller, Jordan Clay, and Tyler Reed are hereby suspended for the remainder of the semester." The boys' parents gasped softly. "That suspension will be recorded on your permanent files," the district representative added. Tyler's mother covered her mouth. Jordan's father whispered something under his breath. Chase's jaw dropped open in silent disbelief. Principal Owens wasn't finished. "You will also issue written and verbal public apologies to Elina Ward." Chase started to protest, but one sharp look from Daniel Ward silenced him. Instantly. "Additionally," the principal went on, "you will be required to provide financial restitution for damages, including replacement of Elina's uniform and costs related to counseling and safety measures." Then came the blows none of them saw coming. "Chase Miller," she said, turning her attention to the ringleader, "your basketball scholarship recommendation is revoked. Effective immediately." The room went dead silent. Chase's face collapsed. Shock, fury, panic, blending into something fragile and broken. His father leaned forward, ready to argue, but the district representative raised a firm hand. "This decision is final." Principal Owens turned next to Tyler. "Tyler Reed, because you initiated the live stream and contributed to the distribution of harmful content, you are now on restricted electronic privileges. Your devices will be monitored by the district for the next 6 months, and you will be barred from all school media clubs." Tyler blinked back tears. Then, Jordan Clay, "Due to your physical involvement and repeated prior warnings, you will be administratively reassigned to another homeroom outside the athletics division. This transfer is mandatory." Jordan's shoulders sagged, defeated. Daniel Ward watched quietly. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He simply nodded once, as if acknowledging that justice, for once, had taken the correct shape. Principal Owens ended the session with solemn finality. This school will no longer tolerate violence disguised as team culture. This ends today. The boys who once believed themselves untouchable, protected by popularity, by athletic glory, by fear, finally faced the consequences of their own cruelty. But the true ending wasn't written in a conference room. It waited somewhere else, on the rooftop where everything began. The rooftop was quiet again. No shouting, no wind roaring like a warning, no footsteps pounding in rage or fear. Just the soft hum of the late afternoon breeze brushing against the concrete floor, carrying with it a strange sense of stillness, a calm that felt impossibly foreign compared to the chaos that had erupted here only days earlier. Alina pushed open the heavy door with a firm but steady hand. It creaked the same way it had that awful afternoon, yet the sound didn't make her flinch this time. She stepped out onto the rooftop slowly, breathing in the wide open air, letting the familiar scent of cement, dust, and faint rust wrap around her. This place should have felt tainted, haunting. Instead, it felt lighter now. Her footsteps echoed softly as she walked toward the far wall, the exact spot where Chase had pinned her, where Jordan had yanked her hair, where Tyler had held up his phone, grinning like a spectator at a show. The concrete still bore faint scuff marks from the struggle. The dust was disturbed in patterns that told a story without words. She crouched down, touching the rough patch of ground where Jordan had slammed down after her judo throw. The dirt was still spread in a fan shape from the impact, grains lodged into cracks like silent witnesses. For a moment, she let her fingers trace the faded outline, not out of anger, not out of trauma, but because she needed to see it, to face it, own it, and let it become part of her story rather than a shadow behind her. Near the wall, scraps of her torn uniform still remained thin threads, caught between two pieces of chipped concrete. She reached forward, plucking one loose carefully, holding it between her fingers. The small scrap fluttered in the breeze, as fragile as the moment she had almost broken. But she didn't. Not then. Not now. Alina exhaled slowly, her breath long and full, releasing tension she hadn't even realized she'd been holding. She rose to her feet and stepped toward the railing. The same railing Chase had nearly toppled over. The same edge where chaos had nearly spun out of control. The same place she had stood, terrified yet unbroken. She placed both hands on the cold metal. The temperature shocked her palms at first, but she didn't let go. She tightened her grip instead, grounding herself, claiming the space. The skyline stretched before her, peaceful and endless, the sun folding itself gently behind rooftops and treetops. She allowed herself one long, deep breath, her first true breath of relief since transferring to Brentwood High. Not relief that the boys had been punished, not relief that she had won, but relief that she hadn't lost herself. Her strength hadn't come from her black belt, not from technique, not from trophies, not from the years of training under her father's watchful eye. Her strength had come from her calm, her control, her refusal to break even when cornered, terrified, and outnumbered. Her true power wasn't the violence she could unleash, but the unshakable steadiness she held when the world tried to tear her down. Alina let her hands slip from the railing and stepped back from the edge. She took one final look around the rooftop, the shadows, the concrete, the sky, and then turned toward the door. Because despite everything that had happened here, despite the scars this place would always hold, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Her journey at Brentwood High wasn't ending, it was only just beginning. The final bell had long since rung, and Brentwood High's courtyard was beginning to settle into its late afternoon quiet. Sunlight filtered through the branches of the old oak trees, casting long shadows onto the pavement where students trickled toward the gates in loose clusters. Conversations drifted through the air lighter, now freer, no longer weighed down by the fear that had hung over the school for months. Alina walked along the center path, her steps steady, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Her body still carried small bruises from the rooftop, but her posture was straight, her expression calm. For the first time since she arrived, she didn't feel like she was trying to disappear. She felt seen. She felt known. She felt respected. A small voice called out timidly behind her. Alina? She turned. A girl, perhaps a freshman, stood a few feet away, clutching the straps of her backpack. Her eyes were wide with nervous gratitude. Behind her, 2 other students lingered, exchanging shy glances. The freshman stepped closer. I just wanted to say thank you. Alina blinked, surprised. For what? The girl hesitated, then spoke in a small rush. You don't know me. But those boys, they used to push me around behind the gym. I never told anyone. I didn't think it mattered. But after what you did, they won't ever do that again. Alina's expression softened. Another student, a boy from her English class, joined quietly. Same for me. Jordan used to take my stuff. I never fought back. You did. You changed things. A third voice came from behind them. You didn't just save yourself, a senior girl said gently. You saved all of us. Alina's breath caught not because she didn't understand, but because hearing it aloud felt heavy and humbling. She had never wanted to be a hero. She had only wanted to survive. But survival, she realized now, wasn't always a solitary act. She offered them a warm, quiet smile. I didn't do anything special, she replied. I just stood up when I had no other choice. The students exchanged looks, knowing looks, grateful looks. They understood the truth behind her words. Courage wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was simply refusing to bow when pushed too far. A silence settled over the group. Not awkward, but meaningful. A silence that acknowledged everything she had endured and everything she had prevented from happening to others. Then, slowly, the students drifted away, heading toward their buses, their cars, their groups of friends. But each one walked with newfound confidence, knowing the school was different now. Safer, fairer, because one girl refused to break. Alina turned toward the center of the courtyard, watching the sun dip lower behind the school buildings. The fading golden light made the world feel softer, like the ending of a long chapter. She took a deep breath, steady, grounded, at peace. Sometimes the quiet strength of the righteous is the sharpest blow to those who meant harm. As the breeze carried away the last echoes of the day, Alina stepped forward, knowing she wasn't walking into the end of something, but the beginning. A new chapter, a new story, one waiting for her to shape it, step by step. And that rooftop? It'll never be the same again. The boys who thought they owned the school walked up there with a pair of scissors and walked back down with their entire reputation in ashes, all because they underestimated the wrong girl. Alina didn't just protect herself. She exposed a system that let bullies thrive, and she reminded everyone what real strength looks like when you're pushed to the edge. Now I want to know, if you were standing on that rooftop, what would you have done? If this story hit you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. More unbelievable stories are coming.